Was this always going to be an animated movie, and was it tough to condense a life into 90 minutes?
Yeah, we decided we had to use animation because Graham was sadly unavailable to take part in his own life story, apart from the tapes that we found. But yeah, I mean, the book that it's based on, it goes off into fantastic flights of fancy, and he takes you down kind of dark alleys and up into space, and it's a kind of lots of madness, really. So it's probably something that we could only do in animation, you know, unless we've been filming in space. And inside his mind and all those other crazy places that he takes us to. But we wanted to use different... It was always part of the plan to use lots of different styles of animation to reflect not just those different places that he goes, but also the different tones of the humour. Some of it is quite dark. The bit in Los Angeles at the end is quite cool, but quite detached. Yeah. So we were able to match the styles of the animation to the styles of his writing and the humour. Hopefully. What was the second part of the question?
Yeah. Oh, I was going to spend. I mean, you found those tapes of Graham, those audio tapes. Was that a godsend, or which point in the production did you find those?
I mean, probably Jeff should answer that because he actually found them and brought them to us. I think.
Yeah, I went up to see David Sherlock, who's been mentioned, Graham's partner, hoping actually to do a documentary about Graham, and hoping that David might have, home movies or something that could be materials for a documentary. Sadly, he didn't, but in the course of that conversation, he mentioned that Graham had been into a studio in Los Angeles, Harry Nilsson's studio, and over 2 nights recorded the entire, 2.5 hours of his autobiography. As a kind of early audio book before those things existed, really. So David knew of the tape's existence, but it took me a little while to track them down. And then I pitched it as a documentary with Graham narrating his own life story from beyond the grave, with some bits of animation in, which thankfully the BBC turned down, thanks to their full time of wisdom. And at that point I walked into Bill and Ben's with some tapes of Graham's voice and some bits of animation.
And we'd just done the endlessly exhaustive documentary series on Monty Python called Almost the Truth. So we really didn't want to do a documentary, a Talking Heads, and I don't think you wanted to do any more. So talking, sitting and talking, like you are now.
I'm not you.
You're right.
But when we said, Terry Jones, would you like to play Graham Chapman's mum? It all cleared.
Yeah, the sort of eureka moment was when we realised that we could just make it as an animated film, and we could bring in the other voices, and we could edit his voice, because we were lucky because when you listen to the book, he does perform. In the book, he performs, I mean, not all the time, but most of the time he performs. And bizarrely, he only performs his own lines. So he must have known this was going to happen.
Yes.
He was no interest in doing anybody else's. So that was the sort of moment that we thought, let's try and get this made, let's try and get this done.